Good evening, guys. Am I audible? Okay, perfect. Okay, so let's discuss what's the agenda for today. Today's agenda will be, so in the previous class we had just started discussing questions from Unit 4, Performance of a Contract of Indian Contract Act. We just finished the true or false and we did 2 questions. Those who missed that can see the video uploaded on YouTube. Today we'll do the balance 70% questions of Unit 4 of Indian Contract Act. Once that is completed, we will proceed to Partnership Act. And today we will discuss Unit 1, questions from Unit 1 of Indian Partnership Act. Again, the concept videos, quick, crisp summary videos I have shared in the group, the YouTube link. You can use that for revision or you can read your own notes. So we'll quickly get started with the questions. First, we'll knock off Unit 4 and then we'll proceed to Partnership Act. Today's class should take roughly about 1 hour 30 minutes only because we have only 2 set of questions to do. So let's start this. I'll present the questions and then we'll start. We finished question number 1, sorry, true or false, and question number 2 and 3 in the last class. Now let us go start with question number 4 and 5. Let's proceed. Now, question number 4, state the grounds upon which a contract may be discharged under the provisions of the Indian Contract Act. Fairly simple, straightforward question from the textbook. Last in Unit 4, this will be your last concept. How will a contract be discharged? That is, discharge meaning how will a contract come to an end? What are the various modes in which contract can come to an end? They would have summarized all the points. I discussed these points in detail also in the video. Some points are like novation of a contract or death of a party where skill is not involved, impossibility of performance, etc. All those points, around 8 to 9 points were discussed in the video. Same is there in the textbook. Next, when a party to a contract, question number 5, when a party to a contract has refused to perform or disabled himself from performing his promise in its entirety, the promise may be put to an end. Explain. Anybody, can you give me the answer? So good, I've got the answer. So, anticipatory breach, attempted performance, correct? So fairly simple question, guys. They're asking here, if one party has refused to perform or disabled himself from performing his promise, the promise may be put to the promisee may put an end to the contract. So if one party is not performing, you can sue him for breach of contract, and you can also claim what? Damages. If there's any damages, if you're suffering any damages, you can claim these damages. Fairly simple questions 4 and 5. Question number 4, sorry, question number 5, you can also discuss about section 39. Section 39 can be discussed over here. Now, is there somebody who can read the remaining questions for me? Someone who has not spoken so far. Gaurav Jain, can I unmute you? Or Ilavarsi, are you there? Can I unmute you guys? I've unmuted Ilavarsi. Can you unmute and read the question for us?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Sixth question, sir.
Yes.
The basic rule is that the promisor must perform exactly what he has promised to perform. Explain stating obligations of parties to contracts.
Okay. So read the, there's some disturbance in the background. You have to see what is that. Okay. So here the question is, the basic rule is that the promisor must perform exactly what he has promised to perform. What do you mean by this? Again, simple guys. Section 37, which talks about reciprocal promise. If X and Y, let's say X is telling Y, he will pay him rupees 1000 for doing plumbing work, plumber work. X will pay Y 1000 for doing plumber work at X's house. Now, for paying for plumber work, X's promises to pay 1000, Y's promises to come to X's house and do the plumber work. Both should promise each other, both have promised each other, and they have to confirm their promise. So basic rule is that promisor must perform exactly what he has promised to perform. Explain stating the obligation of parties to contract. So both the parties have to perform whatever they have promised. This is given in section 37 of the Indian Contract Act. Very simple concepts. Next, Ilavarsi, can you read next question? Okay, I'll give somebody else 1 second. I think she's muted. Ronaka, can I unmute you? Okay. Doubts, we'll take it in the end, guys. Just hold your doubts. We'll take it at the end. If more
X
than
undertakes.
yeah, 1 second. If more than 2 to 3 people have the same doubts, I'm seeing in chart, I'll take it up. Okay. Go ahead, Ronaka.
X undertakes to put life into the dead wife of Y and takes fees of only rupees 1000 in advance. X fails to do so. Y claims his money back. Is the claim valid? X contends that he has provided hope and happiness by doing so.
Answer, guys. No problem. Ilavarsi, network issue. It's fine. No. Yeah, so I'm getting answers for this. Now, see, X undertakes to put life into the dead wife of Y. So there is X and there is Y. Say X is a doctor or anybody. He's saying he will bring Y's wife back to life. Now, is this possible, guys? It is initial impossibility. Contract cannot be performed. Therefore, such an agreement will be void ab initio. Therefore, any benefit received out of this contract, which is void ab initio by one party, has to be returned to the other party. So here, X has received benefit from Y by taking fees of 1000 in advance. Therefore, X has to return the 1000 back to Y. He cannot say that he gave hope and happiness. That is not a valid explanation. Ronak, next question. Question number 8.
Hello,
Yeah,
can you hear me?
yeah, go ahead, Ronak.
Yes. On 1st June, X contracted to supply Y 1000 cubic feet of inland timber at rupees 500 per cubic feet to be delivered at Mumbai from 1st July to 30th September. On 15 June, X informs that he could not supply those goods. The rates of timber per cubic feet on various dates were rupees 1200 on 15 June, rupees 1300 on 1st July, and rupees 1400 on 30th September. State the legal position in each of the following cases. A. If Y filed suit for breach of contract on 15 June. B. If Y filed suit for breach of contract on 30th September. C. If on 29th September the import of such goods was banned and Y filed a suit for breach of contract on 30th September.
Yeah, take a minute time, guys. Please go through the question. Hello. నేను క్లాస్లో ఉన్నా. So let me explain this question before we start. Follow, guys. On 1st June, we are in question number 8. Yeah. On 1st June, X contracted to supply to Y. So X has contracted to supply to Y 1000 cubic feet of Finland timber at rupees 500 per cubic feet. So he's supplying 1000 cubic feet of Finland timber at rupees 500 per cubic feet. This was the agreement. So totally 1000 into 500 is what he has to pay to be delivered at Mumbai on 1st July to 30th September. It has to be delivered during this date from 1st July to 30th September. On 15th June, X informs that he could not supply those goods. So the deadline is from 1st July to 30th September. Within these 3 months, he has to deliver it. 15 June, 15 days before due date, he is informing that he could not supply these goods, and the rates of timber per cubic feet on various dates were, they're giving different cases. On 15 June, the rate is 1200 per cubic feet, 1300 on 1st July, and 1400 on 30th September. State the position in each of the cases is what they are asking. Now, follow carefully, guys. Here, in the first case, Y is filing a suit for breach of contract on 15th June itself. On 15th June, see, X is informing that he could not supply those goods. Am I audible, guys? There was some net issue. Am I audible now? Can you just type if I'm audible? Yeah, okay. So follow carefully, guys. Now this concept here, this question relates to anticipatory breach and also where time is essence of the contract. Time is essence of the contract because they have agreed to supply between 1st July to 30th September. Now let's go one by one. First case, Y filed the suit for breach of contract because 15th June itself X informed that he cannot supply. On the same day he has filed a suit. Now what is the amount of damages he can claim? On 15th June, price is 1200. Correct, price is 1200. If he has to buy from the market, he has to pay 1200 compared with 500 was the agreed price. Extra he has to pay how much? 1000 cubic feet into 1000. This will be your damages. So 1000 into 700 will be 7 lakhs. Have you all understood the first part, guys? Only the first part of the question. 7 lakhs will be the amount of damages in the first case. Have you all understood this? Just type yes if you have understood. Anybody has a doubt, you can ask me to repeat. I will repeat again. Okay, next. Second case, I'll explain the full question. Then if you have doubts, I'll take it up. In second case, no, each case is independent cases, guys. Okay, there are 2 to 3 students asking me to repeat. Let me just repeat it again. 1 second. See, very simple, guys. I hope you understood the facts of the question. X has agreed to sell to Y 1000 cubic feet of timber at rupees 500 per timber. He said he will deliver this between the dates 1st July to 30th September. Now what is happening on 15th June itself, X is informing to Y that he could not supply these goods. He has breached the contract. Therefore, what should Y do? Y is suing X on 15th of June. What is happening on 15th of June? 15th of June market price is rupees 1200 per cubic feet of timber. So if Y wants to buy this in the market today, he has to pay 1200 per cubic feet. But as per the contract, he should have paid only 500 per cubic feet. So 1200 minus 500, he has to pay additionally 700 per cubic feet into 1000 cubic feet, which he has to buy. Totally, it will come to 7 lakhs. Will be the additional cost he has to incur. This will be the amount of damages, general damages he will claim. I hope Gaurav and Anu has understood this. If yes, please type. Next. Second, if Y filed suit for breach of contract on 30th September. Yes, you have to mention amount also. Now, second thing, now follow very carefully, guys, very, very carefully. On 15th June itself, X has informed that he could not supply these goods. However, what Y has done, because the contract time is 1st July to 30th September, between these 3 months, Y X can supply anytime. Y is giving the benefit of doubt to X. He is waiting until the contract is completed. He is waiting until the contract is completed. Even though he knows that X cannot supply, he is waiting until end of the contract. Now on 30th September, he is filing a suit. Will the suit be tenable? Yes. What amount he has to pay? On 30th September, price is 1400. 30th September, price is 1400. Therefore, 1400 minus 500 per cubic feet, it will be 900 into 1000, it will be 9 lakhs. Now you might think this is breach of contract. Why has he not filed the suit on 15th? Why is he filing the suit only on 30th? Why is giving benefit of doubt to the other party, since the contract is saying he has to deliver between 1st July to 30th September. What if X delivers later? So he's waiting until 30th September to file the suit. He has time until the last day to file the suit, because 30th September is the last day on which he has to supply. So second case, amount payable will be 9 lakhs. Have you understood this part, guys? First and second, before I go to the third part. Okay, let me go to the third part of the question now. Third part says, if on 20th September the import of such goods was banned, Finland Timber government on 29 September has passed the government order GO saying it is banned. This product is banned. You cannot import this product. And why filed suit on 30th September? What is the case? Can anybody give me the answer before I give you the answer? I have got answer from Darshita, correct. Pratham, answer correct. Soumya, correct answer. Now follow, guys. The minute a good is banned, it becomes illegal goods. Therefore, you cannot import illegal goods. Entering into agreement for illegal goods is void. We studied in unit 3 itself. Agreements opposed to public policy, any illegal goods are void. Therefore, Y cannot file a suit. Suit will not be tenable. He cannot claim any damages. For this, he should have filed the suit much in advance. These are the three cases. I hope you understood this question. Correct. Kriti, your answer is correct. So doubts, I will unmute you after 9th question. We are done with last question. Once 9th question is over, please note down the doubts, guys. I'll unmute you guys. We can discuss the doubts before we go to Partnership Act. Okay. Question number 9. Can I have Sri Ranjini to read the question? I'm unmuting her.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
A had taken several loans from B over the last few years. The details are as follows. Date of loan 15 September 2010, amount 10 lakhs, interest percentage 10%. 15th October 2017, 5 lakh, 15%. 20th June 2000. A had informed B to adjust the amount against the loans with the A had repaid 5 lakh on 16th July 2019 and rupees 4 lakh on 20th June 2021. Explain the consequences in the following cases. A had informed B to adjust the amount against loans with the highest interest first. A had not initiated anything and B has adjusted loans on in reverse time basis. Both A and B were silent. Also, in 2010, loan had become time barred and A had paid only 2 lakh on 20th June 2021 instead of 4 lakhs. What will your answer be in above cases?
So please go through the question, guys. Now this question you will not find in any other book. So now this concept belongs to appropriation of payments. Appropriation of payments. Please go through the question. Try solving it your end. Then we'll discuss. Please try, guys. I'm giving you time for you to try. Then I'll explain in detail in the whiteboard. Important concept. Please try. You can also refer to textbook for appropriation of payments concept. Go through that. Then you try it. So let me start, guys. I'll start discussing. I'm going to shift to the whiteboard. So you have to take the question and some other thing. So I'll explain over here. Follow, guys. So all of you are giving the answer. You're giving me the answer like what should be done, but I want the amount. Amount only few of them are given. Correct. Ilavarsi, your answer is correct. Others, no. Okay, let me explain now. Others, Anu, what you have typed is correct, but I want the answers also. So let me explain. So first, the question they're saying, A had taken several loans from B over the last few years. Details are as follows. So in 2010, in September 2010, let me explain the question properly, guys. You'll understand. Then you can ask all your doubts. 10 lakhs was the amount of loan. Interest rate was 10%. Again in October 2017, a loan of 5 lakhs is taken where the interest rate was 15%. And in third case, on 28th June 2020, there's a loan of 2 lakhs taken for interest rate of 20%. Now, who has taken all these loans? A has taken all these loans from B. That is the question that's given over here. Now let's read the paragraph below. A has repaid 5 lakhs on 16 July 2019. A has repaid to B 5 lakhs on 16th July 2019 and 4 lakhs on 20th June 2021. This is one repayment. Again, A has repaid to B 4 lakhs on 20th June 2021. 20th June 2021. Explain the consequences in the following cases. Now, there are 3 questions below, A, B and C. You need to take them each separately. Okay, each as separately. First case they are saying A had informed B to adjust the amount against the loans with highest interest first. A had asked them to adjust with the highest interest first. So this is the first case of appropriation of payments where the person who's obtaining the loan is informing the other party how he wants to adjust this loan. So first what we have to do, go to 2019. In 2019 July, I am only dealing with case A, guys. Each case you have to deal with it separately. So it's a long question. So case A is repaying to B 5 lakhs, asking to adjust with the highest loan rate. Now in 2019, only these 2 loans are there, correct? Because in 2019, this loan is still not there. Even though 20% is the highest rate, this loan is still non-existent in 2019. So in July 2019, we have only these two loans. So 5 lakhs will be adjusted against the highest interest rate, which is 15%. So this loan will be striked off. This loan will be striked off first. Second, now in June 2021, he is repaying. Now assume guys, interest is paid on time. Assume is only for principal and interest is paid on time. Now in June 2021, A has repaid to be 4 lakhs. Again adjust with the highest interest rate. In 2021, what are the loans outstanding? This loan and this loan. So first I will adjust against highest interest rate 20%. June 2020, I will adjust 4 lakhs against this loan. Still there is 2 lakhs to be adjusted. So I will again adjust with this loan. And the balance will be 8 lakhs in this loan. Balance will be 8 lakhs because out of this 4 lakhs, I am adjusting 2 lakhs against this and 2 lakhs against this loan. Therefore, in case A, amount outstanding after all the adjustments will be 8 lakhs. Have you all understood this part, guys? Have you all understood this part? 8 lakhs is the answer. Only Ilavarsi got the correct answer. Everybody else got different numbers. No. So 8 lakhs. Have you all understood? Can I proceed to case B? Okay, very simple. This is case A. Now, let me go to case B now. Just a second, I'll just undo everything so it will be easy for me to. So I am going to case B now. Till here, I hope all of you are clear without any doubts. See guys, interest in this question, I'm assuming interest is paid on time. We are only dealing with principal here. These amounts 10 lakhs, 5 lakhs, 2 lakhs, 5 lakhs and 4 lakhs are principal amounts. Interest he is paying on time. A is paying every month interest on time or yearly interest. I should have given that extra note. You can ignore that. In exam, see, they will not give you very complicated with interest and all, so don't worry about it. Already this question is extremely complicated. Now, next. Case number 2. Case 2 saying A has not intimated anything and B had adjusted the loans on reverse time basis. So here in second case, now we are in second case, B case. A has not informed anything to B and B is adjusting these loans whenever he is paid on reverse time basis. That is simply your LIFO method, last in, first out. Whichever loan is the latest loan that he is adjusting first. So again, let's see. In July 2019, follow carefully guys. In July 2019, A has repaid to B how much? 5 lakhs amount in July 19. That time there were only two loans, correct? These were the only two loans which were existing, because June 2020 loan has still not been taken. So when A has paid 5 lakhs to B and he has not intimated which loan to adjust against, B is adjusting in reverse time basis. So B is adjusting in reverse time basis between these two loans, 2010 loan and 2017 loan, which is the latest loan, October 2017. So he is adjusting this 5 lakhs which is paid against this loan first. Next, in June 2021, when he has repaid 4 lakhs, again he has to adjust in reverse time basis. So now what are the two loans available? You have June 2020 loan and September 2010 loan. What is the latest loan in this? June 2020. So first I will adjust against this loan. 4 lakhs is adjusted against 2 lakhs. Balanced I have 2 more lakhs that I will adjust with this loan. And again I will have a closing balance of 8 lakhs. Obviously guys, however you adjust, closing balance has to be same. It is only manner of adjusting that is going to change. Because if you see logically guys, total amount borrowed is 10 lakhs plus 5 lakhs plus 2 lakhs, which is 17 lakhs. Total amount repaid is 5 lakhs plus 4 lakhs, which is 9 lakhs. Therefore, obviously balance loan payable will be only 8 lakhs. Only what is important is what is the manner of adjustment. Have you understood this part guys before I proceed? Can I proceed, guys? Anybody has a doubt, guys, before I can proceed? Okay. So let me proceed to the third part of the question. Just a minute. I'll undo everything and again take up third part. Just a minute, guys. So now if you read the third part of the question, what is third part saying? Third part says both the parties are silent. Both the parties are silent. If you read the question, both A and B were silent. What will happen now? What is the law saying? When both the parties are silent in third case, just a second, there are some. Payment should be done. If both the parties are silent, payment should be done based on order of time. That is FIFO basis, like inventory FIFO basis, first in, first out, whichever loan is taken first, adjust that. Now, here they are saying if both the parties are silent, even if there are time barred debts, even if there are old debts which are time barred, you can adjust that also. So now, if both the parties are silent, again fairly simple, guys, follow very carefully. First case, 5 lakhs is repaid in 2019. What is the oldest loan? 10 lakhs. So I will adjust with 10 lakhs. This 10 lakhs will now become 5 lakhs. Second, in June 2021, what will happen? I will adjust this 4 lakhs with the oldest loan. Still, what is the oldest loan? 5 lakhs is the oldest loan. So 5 lakhs will be striked off. It will become 1 lakh. That's all. Therefore, if you see total balance again, 5 lakhs plus 2 lakhs plus 1 lakh, total will come to 8 lakhs outstanding. So in all the three cases, first case, second case or third case, your answer is 8 lakhs. But the point in this question is which loan is adjusted to become 8 lakhs. If you see in third case, entire amount is adjusted with the oldest loan. Previous case, we went in reverse basis. In the first case, we went in based on higher interest rate. That is the concept of appropriation of payments. Are you guys clear till here before I proceed to next level? I'm taking this question very slowly because it is important for you to understand the concept. Some of you might understand it fastly. It's okay. 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 So let me proceed to next part of the question. Next part of the question, if you read down paragraph, they have given a small paragraph below. Now in the small paragraph, again, you have to reapply all the three cases in this small paragraph. What is the small paragraph saying? Also, if in 2010, the loan had become time barred and A had paid only 2 lakhs on 20th June instead of 4 lakhs, what will be your answer in above cases? So they are saying, again, reapply the cases A, B, and C. But the changes, what is the change? They are saying instead of 4 lakhs, the amount which is repaid on 20th June, follow carefully, guys. Instead of 4 lakhs, can you see my screen, guys? I just made it a little big so that you can. Yeah. So instead of 4 lakhs, they are saying amount repaid on 20th June 2021 is 2 lakhs. Following, guys, amount repaid is on 20th June 2021 is 2 lakhs. And they are saying what will be your answer in all the three cases. Again, you have to reapply three cases. They are saying 2010 loan has become time barred. That is, this 2010 loan has become time barred. That means you cannot adjust loan against this in few cases. Let us see what those cases are. Now, again, let me take each case by one. Case A, case B, and case C. Case A, case B, and case C. Let me see what answers are coming. Now, in case A, let's see what happens. What is case A? We discussed that case A is a case where A has informed B to adjust loan against the highest interest rate. Highest interest rate. So what is the highest interest rate? We are seeing case 1 now. Again case 1. Highest interest rate for this 5 lakhs is 20%. So first I will adjust this 5 lakhs against 2 lakhs because 20% interest. Balance I have more 3 lakhs which I will adjust against. Sorry guys. So first loan, we are going to take the 2019 loan. We are going to take the 2019 loan. If you take the 2019 loan, that time in 2019, only one loan was in existence. Only 2017 loan was in existence. Because 2010 loan has become time barred, we will not consider that. So in 2019, he has repaid 5 lakhs, which will be completely adjusted against this middle 5 lakhs loan. Next, in 2021, he has repaid how much? 2 lakhs. Therefore, this 2 lakhs will be adjusted. This 2 lakhs will be adjusted against this 2 lakhs in 2020. Highest interest rate, 15%. Therefore, again 2 lakhs. Again 2 lakhs will be adjusted. And in case 1, the loan outstanding will become nil. It will become 0. Have you all understood this, guys? Before I proceed to case B. Have you all understood this? Kriti, Anu, you guys can type your answer, guys. Please tell me if you understood. Okay. Now we are coming to case B. Case B where you have to adjust in the reverse order time. Reverse order time when facts are changing. Reverse order time. In 2019, what is the only loan taken? This is the only loan that is taken. So this 5 lakhs will be adjusted against this 5 lakhs. Knock off. This second loan will again be knocked off. This 2 lakhs will again be adjusted against 2021 because that is the only loan. So 2 lakhs will also be adjusted against 2 lakhs. Again, in this case, your answer will become nil. Answer will become nil. So case A and case B, answer will be nil. Let me go to case C now. What are they saying in case C? Case C, they are saying both are silent. Both the parties are silent. However, the loan one, this loan is a time barred loan. So in case C, when both the parties are silent, the law says adjust in order of time irrespective of whether it is time barred or not. Therefore, this 5 lakhs will be first adjusted against 10 lakhs. This 2 lakhs will also be adjusted against 10 lakhs. This 10 lakhs will become 10 lakhs minus 5 minus 2 lakhs. It will become 3 lakhs. Then you will have total outstanding 3 lakhs plus 5 lakhs plus 2 lakhs. It will become 10 lakhs. Outstanding loan in third case alone will be 10 lakhs because time bar debt can be adjusted when both the parties are silent. So you will take 10 lakhs. Have you understood, guys, or should I explain again? Others, have you understood? Can you just type if you understood? Okay, there are many students asking third part alone. Can I explain? I'll explain third part alone again one last time. Very simple, guys. Follow very carefully. In third part, they are saying where the parties are silent, loan should be adjusted in order of time. Oldest loan first and then the new loans. However, there's a provision which says whether or not the loans are time barred, you will adjust the oldest loan first. So here they are saying the September 2020 loan is a time barred debt, but still because both the parties are silent, law is adjusting based on order of time. The first repayment 5 lakhs will be adjusted against this 10 lakhs. Therefore, 10 lakhs will become 5 lakhs. Again in 2021, this 2 lakhs will be adjusted against this 10 lakhs. So 5 lakhs will become 3 lakhs. Total outstanding end of the year will be 3 lakhs plus 5 lakhs plus 2 lakhs. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It will be 10 lakhs will be your amount that is outstanding. Understood, guys? Can I proceed? Now, many are asking me, sir, what to do with interest? Interest, ignore it. In this question, assume interest is repaid on time. Guys, if you have not understood, please type, guys, else I'll assume you have understood. Okay. So with this, we are done with unit 4, performance of a contract. Before I go to unit partnership, I will just spend 2 minutes to take up doubts and then I will proceed with that. So Darshita has a few doubts. Anybody else has a doubt, you can ask. I'll unmute. Go ahead, Darshita.
Yeah, so the doubt which I have is in the C part.
Okay.
So you said that the 2010 loan is time barred. So why
Correct.
have you applied 7 lakhs against those 10 lakh rupees?
Yeah, you should take page number 1.73 in your textbook and read the third point over there. The third point, I'll read it for you, which says application of payment where neither party appropriates. That is, both the parties are silent. I'll read the wordings for you as given in textbook. Where neither party makes any appropriation, the payment shall be applied in discharge of debts, comma, in order of time, comma, whether they are or not barred by law in force for the time being in limitation to suits. So they are saying in this provision, whether the loan is time barred or not, you can still adjust with the oldest loan. That is what section 61 says. Understood, Darshita?
Yes, sir. And so I also have doubt in the previous question.
Okay,
Can I
one
ask
second.
it now?
Yeah, sure. We'll just spend 2 minutes and then I'll proceed to others. You can see others. You can open the Partnership Act handout and start solving the true or false. Start solving the true or false. Which question?
Yes, sir. Sir, eighth question.
Yeah, tell me.
So what if the amounts would be less? Suppose if I have contracted to you that I will sell you for rupees 500 per cubic feet.
Okay.
But on 15th June, I say that no, I cannot.
Okay.
And on 15th June, the price is not 1200, but let's say 200 or 300. So what am I supposed to apply then?
That time, see, that time what will happen if its price is 200 or 300, here the party Y can buy in the market itself for a lower price, correct?
Yeah.
I can still sue the party for breach of contract, but the damages will be zero. It will be nominal damages because there is no loss for me, right?
Okay, so I cannot claim anything above that.
Correct. You cannot claim. Only if the price is above 500, you can claim. If it's less than 500, you can obviously buy in the market. But however, in the market, let's say this Finland timber is not available. It is not in stock. Then you can claim for the loss you might get. But if it's available at lower price, then you not claim anything.
So lower price doesn't mean anything if if the prices are set lower.
Yeah, nothing. No consequences then. No damages.
Okay.
You can only claim nominal damages that time. That's all.
Yeah, and yeah, so what about that interest percentage, 10%, 15%? You haven't applied it, so we don't have to apply the interest rate while calculating the actual loan.
No. See, here I'm just assuming that the interest amount is paid every month. See, normally when you take a loan, right, go to a bank and take a loan, depends on the terms of loan. Sometimes loan will be EMI payment. So you will repay both principal and interest at the time. Sometimes you will repay only interest and repay principal later. So this is the type of loan where interest is paid every monthly and principal is going to be repaid later, end of the loan period. That is the assumption I'm taking up over here. However, if they mention that interest should also be calculated, same steps, just calculate interest additionally. That's all. But that complication in exam, you will not get it. So don't worry about that.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much. Sure. So I'm done with my doubts.
Okay. So I'll open the handout for next thing. Others, please go through the true or false. Just give me a moment until I... So I've opened the partnership thing. I hope you can see my handout. So everyone take 2 minutes time to go through the true or false question. Today's class should be done in another 30 minutes, guys. I told you it's a short class because less questions to discuss. So go through the true or false in Partnership Act. We will discuss them in a minute. Anu, let me unmute you. Anu has a doubt. Just a second, guys. See, guys, if you have a doubt, just type in chat. I'll see and unmute you guys. Anu, yes, Anu, unmute you.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening.
Sir, I have the doubt in the second point of appropriation of payments.
Okay.
Can you explain that theory, sir?
Theory. Okay. See, if you read the textbook, if you take page number,
Yes, sir.
I just have to take it again. Just a moment. Page number 1.73.
1.73, sir.
Just a second. So second point over there reads, if I'll read it as it is, it says application of payment where debt to be discharged is not indicated. So let's say you are borrowing money from me and you have not told me adjust this loan against whom. So where the debtor has omitted to initiate and there are no circumstances indicating to which the payment is to be applied, the creditor, that means the person who has given the loan, here the person who has given the loan, the creditor may apply at his discretion to any lawful debt actually due and payable to him from the debtor. So my own wish, I can apply the loan with any loan I want. Understood? So
Yes,
here in this
sir.
question, they have given that the creditor is applying the loan in reverse time basis. It can be any basis. I can apply on reverse basis, FIFO basis, LIFO basis, my wish. Because the person who's repaying has not given instructions, I can apply it on any way I want. So the appropriation payments, only three concepts. First point says where the person who's repaying the money, the debtor, has given instructions against which loan to adjust with that loan. Second case, if he is not giving instructions, then the creditor, the person who has given the money, he can adjust with any loan. Third case, where both are silent, you have to adjust in order of time basis. That's all.
Sir, can you read the continuing sentences where its recovery is or is
Sure.
not barred? In
Where
the
its
same
recovery
point.
is or not barred by law in force for the time being as to limitation of suits. So they are saying in this point, now let's say in this case, in the September 10, 2010 loan, it was time barred debt, correct? In second case.
Yes, sir.
Now the debtor has not informed against which loan to adjust.
Yes, sir.
Now, just because he has not informed, I cannot go and adjust with old loan or new loan. I cannot adjust with time barred debt. Basically, this point says that its recovery is not barred by the law in force. That means you cannot adjust with time barred debts. You can only adjust with loan which is having life. That's all.
Yes. Yes, sir. So
Okay.
just a minute, sir.
Sure.
Sir, can you explain supervening impossibility, sir?
Yeah, I'll explain this doubt and other doubts I'll take in end of the class once. Then see, supervening impossibility meaning, see what they're saying in supervening impossibility is initially the contract was possible to perform. Later it became impossible to perform. Let's say, for example, you wanted to attend concert of Michael Jackson. You paid ticket for the concert. At the time of entering into contract, Michael Jackson was alive. He has to come to India after 3 months to play do the concert, music concert. But within 3 months, he died. Therefore, supervening impossibility. Initially, at the time of entering into contract was valid. But now, is it possible to enter into contract now? Can he come and sing? Anu? No, because he died.
No.
So it's impossible to perform. So initially it was possible. Now it is impossible. So these kind of cases are called supervening impossibility. Now, if you want practical example, let's say in Tamil, let's say some music director, some Mani Ratnam has entered into contract with SPB for a contract for a music direction. But unfortunately, SPB sir has passed away recently. So now the contract will become void, supervening impossibility. That's all. I cannot hear you, Anu.
So which is similar to wide agreement or wide contract.
No. Supervening impossibility means initially the contract is valid contract. Initially contract is valid contract. Later it becomes impossible to perform, so it becomes void contract.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, so let's start with the questions. Anu, if you're still online, can you read the questions for us? I've unmuted you again. Yeah. Can you read the first true or false question?
Yes, sir. Okay, sir. A co-owner has no right to claim partition of joint property.
Answer. True or false, guys?
False.
Answer, guys. Everybody has given me false. That is the correct answer. First question answer is false. Co-owner has the right to claim partition of joint property. Second question, can you read?
Eldest male member is called Karta of a HUF.
Answer.
True, sir.
I'm getting true from everybody and everybody are going to get 0 in the exam. If you all have your study mat, can you please take your study mat, guys? I actually want to show this to you. I'll just take the page number, just a minute. page number, just a minute, I'll just find it. Yeah, can you take page number 3.8 in your textbook if you have study mat with you? 3.8. Can you read the table down one paragraph? Joint Hindu family, one bold, one paragraph. The amendment in the
Is
Hindu
it me?
Act 2005. Can you all read?
Sir, or you are asking me?
So if you see as an amendment if you see your page textbook 3.8, I don't know if it's some other page in different version, but basically I'm saying in partnership unit 1, difference between partnership and joint HUF, there'll be a paragraph below which says the amendment in the Hindu Succession Act entitled all adult members, Hindu males and females, to become co-partners in HUF. They now enjoy equal rights of inheritance due to this amendment. On 1st Feb 2016, Justice Nazvi Warzi gave a landmark judgment which allowed the eldest female co-partners of a HUF to become its karta. Now, all of you told false for true for second question, because school you have studied only eldest male member, but it's an amendment. Therefore, second question is also false. Even eldest female member can be karta in HUF. Clear, Anu and others?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Third question. Can you read the third question?
A partnership can be formed for a charitable purpose.
Answer.
False.
False. Very clear. Definition of partnership itself. Partnership should be formed only for profitable purpose, intent of making profit. Fourth question.
A partnership can be formed with a minor,
Answer.
and it's false.
Answer is false. Follow, guys. To form a partnership, you cannot have a minor. A and B should be major. After forming the partnership, later, let's say C is a minor, he can be admitted into the partnership for the benefits of the partnership. See, minor can join a partnership as beneficial partner, but at the time of forming, he cannot be a partner. So D is also false. E, can you read E, Anu?
Agreement for partnership can be only in written form.
Answer.
False, sir.
Correct, it is false. It can be in
It may
written
be
or
oral or
oral
written.
also. So A to E all are false. Next, can you read F?
A partnership can be formed for carrying of a profession.
Answer.
True, sir.
For example, classic example, tomorrow when you become CA, and let's say you want to start a CA firm, both of you are going to start, you and your friend are going to start CA firm for partnership. That will be, partnership can be formed for carrying on profession. So answer is true. Next question.
Every partner is jointly and severally liable to third parties.
Answer.
True, sir.
Guys, am I audible? I think I'm audible.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So every partner is jointly and severally liable to third parties. Answer is true. Next one,
True.
H.
Partnership at will is for indefinite period. It is
Answer.
true, sir.
Yes, it is true, because partnership at will is for indefinite period. Basic concept. Next.
Period. It is only optional for partnership deed to get registered. True, sir.
Correct. True, it is only optional. It is not mandatory to get registered. But if you don't get registered, you lose some benefits. That's all. Next.
Yes. A dormant partner does not participate in the management of business.
Answer.
True, sir.
True. Correct. So from F to J, all are true. First 5 are false. Next 5 are true. So how many of you got 10 on 10 in this, true or false? All correct. 9 also I don't want. I want 10 on 10. Because it is easy, true or false. 9 on 10 also is good. Good. So Soumya got 10 on 10. Darshita 9 on 10. Pratham 9 on 10. Kriti 9 on 10. Good. Good, guys. Even if somebody got 7 on 10, 6 on 10 also, don't feel demotivated. It's absolutely fine. We're in the class to learn. This is not the exam. These scores are not going to be in your exam. It's your main exam what matters. Next. Okay. Anybody else who wants to read the questions for us? Anu, you can mute yourself. Anybody who has not participated
Okay,
so
sir.
far?
Thank you.
I want somebody who has not participated in any of the classes. I'm just looking at the names. Kushi Bubna, are you there? Can I unmute you?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, go ahead, Kushi. Kushi, can you read question number 2 for us?
Yes, sir. Sure, sir.
Yeah.
What is the conclusive evidence of partnership? State the circumstances when partnership is not considered between the two or more parties.
Very simple and very important exam question. Conclusive evidence of partnership. I explained in the video also. You should have those 4 points. Basically, you have to write the true test of partnership. Those points which are there in textbook, straightforward. Those 4 points, copy paste. That is the answer for this question. Next, can you read the next question for us?
Yes, sir. Three brothers X, 19 years, Y, 18 years, Z, 17 years, decide to form a partnership with the provision that Z will share profit only. Comment.
Answer, can they form or no? Yes or no?
No, sir, because Z is a minor.
Z is a minor, therefore you cannot form the partnership. Sorry guys, true test of partnership, 3 points. Only those 3 points, not 4. I told my mistake. 3 points. There should be agreement, there should be intent to share profits, and there should be concept of mutual agency. Guys, I hope, see, for partnership, please go watch the videos. If you've already studied, just watch the video. See, all my videos are only 20 to 30 minutes maximum for a unit. Normally, again, I take these concepts for 3 to 4 hours in class. I have summarized it for 20 to 30 minutes. It can also help you in revision.
Question number 4. Nisha Ronak Kushi agreed to share profit and loss and to carry on the business by all or anyone acting for all for mutual benefits and gain. The management and control was entrusted with Nisha with power to restrict the right of Ronak and Kushi. Is there a valid partnership?
Answer, guys. Is there a valid partnership? Question number 4.
No, sir.
Why?
Because Ronak and Kushi was restricted.
See, now if you see here, they are saying Ronak, Nisha and Kushi agreed to share profits and losses and to carry on the business by all or any of them acting for all mutual benefits and gain. So concept of agency, mutual agency is present. The management and control was entrusted with Nisha with power to restrict the rights of Ronak and Kushi. Is there a valid partnership? Now, follow very carefully, guys. When you start a business tomorrow, you cannot give control to every partner. See, you cannot give control to every partner. Only few partners will have the main control. For this, the other partners, Ronak and Kushi, have agreed to it. See, they have agreed to it in the partnership deed. Therefore, it is a valid partnership. Question number 4 is a valid partnership. Before that, I have doubts. There is doubt from Praveen and Gaurav. Just a minute, guys. Let me take those doubts. Others, please go through question number 5 and 6. Please go through question 5 and 6. Meanwhile, I'll take doubts from Praveen and Gaurav. So Praveen, I'm unmuting you. Just ask your doubt or you can type your doubt.
Sir, in third question, it is saying they are brothers of 19, 18 and 17, sir.
Correct.
And is it allowed to share only profit? So he's a minor with beneficiary. So they can enter into a contract. So it's a partnership back 1 year, sir.
Correct. So I'll explain this concept for you. See, let us say X and Y are starting a partnership. Later, after partnership is registered, they are adding Z. That is allowed. But here, if you see, I'll explain the logic also for you. X, Y, and Z decide to form a partnership. To form a partnership, what they will do? They will sign a partnership deed. That means X, Y, and Z are entering into a contract between themselves. Z is a minor, not eligible to enter into a contract. Therefore, minor cannot form a partnership. He can only be admitted to benefits of partnership later. Once partnership is already formed, later he can be admitted to benefits of partnership. Understood, Praveen? I hope you understood. You again gone to mute. You can just type if you understood. Okay. Next. Now, guys, let me finish all the questions. Then I'll take all your doubts. Don't worry, guys. Let me proceed to next question. Question number 5, 6, 7, 8. We only have 4 more questions. Let me finish all these 4 questions. Then I'll take up doubts of whoever has the doubts. Don't worry, all the doubts I will cover. Next, who is reading the question? I hope she's still there. Okay, she left. Okay, Gaurav, I'll unmute you. Can you read the question?
X, a contractor, appointed Y, one of his servants, to manage his business of loading and unloading railway wagons. Y was to receive 50% of the profits of the business and also to bear losses if any. Is Y a partner of X?
Answer, guys. Can you give me the answer? Is this a partnership? Fifth one, is it a partnership or not a partnership? So I'm getting answers. No, no. Correct. It is not a partnership. Reason, go back to your true test of partnership. 3 things. One, for true test of partnership, there should be agreement. Yes, they have an agreement here. Are they sharing profits? Yes, they are sharing profits also. But third thing, concept of mutual agency is not there. That is, one, X is appointing Y. X can act on behalf of Y, but Y cannot act on behalf of X. So since concept of mutual agency is not there, this is not a partnership. Same classic case, guys. All of you know now. Today, delivery business is one of the top businesses in India. Take Zomato or Swiggy or Dunzo, anything. In all these cases, if you see, there's agreement between themselves. They're also sharing profits, correct? A percentage is given to the Swiggy delivery boys. But why is it not a partnership? Because concept of mutual agency, most important in partnership, is missing, where one party can act on behalf of the other party. Next, question number 6. Can I have Kushi to read the question? I'll unmute Kushi. Yeah. Kushi, read the next 3 questions.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, Kushi, you will read question number 6, 7, and 8 right now. Then I'll give you all 2 minutes time. Go through question 6, 7, and 8, and we'll discuss all 3 together. Go ahead, Kushi.
X and Y jointly own a house, converted that house into hotel after investing rupees 1 lakh each. X manages the hotel and meets all expenses and retains half of the gross earnings and hands over the other half to Y. Can X and Y be regarded as partners? Question 7. X to publish his own expenses above and to be half of the net profit. Can X and Y be called as partners? Mr. Amir Khan Hello.
Yeah, yes. Take a minute time, guys. Go through the question. So let me discuss, guys. Question number 6. Question number 6 says, X and Y jointly own a house, converted the house into hotel after winning 1 lakh each. X manages the hotel and meets all the expenses and retains half of the gross earnings and hands over the other half to Y. Can X and Y be regarded as partners? Answer. No, they are not partners. They are co-owners. They are co-owners for a property. If you see difference between co-owners and partnership, you will understand. This is the concept of co-ownership. Next. Next question. X, a publisher, agrees to publish at his own expense book written by Y and to pay Y half of the net profits. Can X and Y be called partners? Question number 7. No, because again, very important concept of mutual agency is not present here. One party cannot act on behalf of the other party. Last question. Question number 8. Amir Khan and Karan Johar entered into a contract of particular partnership for the purpose of shooting a movie. The movie turned out to be the biggest flop of the decade due to poor direction. Mr. Karan Johar requested Mr. Amir Khan to continue the partnership for another movie. However, Amir Khan rejected the offer and wanted to end the partnership. Karan Johar filed a suit against Amir Khan. Advice. Answer, guys. Will the suit be tenable? No, because the main concept here is particular partnership. What is the logic of particular partnership? Partnership will come to an end after the project is over. Here one movie is over, therefore project is over. Only if it is partnership at will, then partnership will continue for indefinite period, then the suit will be tenable. Since this is partnership, particular partnership, suit will not be tenable. I hope you guys have understood this. With this, we are done with unit 1 of Partnership Act and Contract Act. So what I'll do now, again next class will be only on Wednesday, guys. I will share with you videos for unit 2 and unit 3. See, I'm giving you 1 day's time to go through these concepts and learn, so that next day we will study. So on Wednesday, we will complete the balance unit 2 and unit 3 of Indian Partnership Act. I will also share with you videos in the group. Don't worry about that. Now those who are done, have no doubts, can leave the class. Others who are having doubts can stay. I will take up the doubts one by one. Okay, so I'll just take each person's doubt. So those who are, I'm taking up those who are typing. First, Kushi has a doubt. Just a second. Kushi, I've unmuted you. You can ask your doubt. Kushi Bubna.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Sir,
ask.
please explain question number 4 again.
In this Partnership Act, is it? Yes, guys, I'm seeing all your doubts. Darshita, Gaurav, I've seen your doubts. Just a minute. I'll go one by one. Don't worry. Question number 4. Nisha,
Yes,
Ronak and Kushi agree to share the profits and losses to carry on the business by all or any of them acting or all for mutual benefits and gain. The management and control was entrusted with Nisha with the power to restrict the right of Ronak and Kushi. Is there a valid partnership? You have to check 3 things, Kushi, for this. First, is there an agreement? True test of partnership. Agreement is there? Yes. Are they sharing profits? Yes. Is there a concept of mutual agency? Yes, one party can act for the other party. However, some powers, the management and control was entrusted with Nisha with power to restrict the rights of Ronak and Kushi. It could be any reason. Maybe Nisha only started this business with her funds and her idea. Ronak and Kushi are just helping her. Therefore, they have restricted the powers. Absolutely fine. It is still a partnership. It is a valid partnership. Have you understood, Kushi?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Next, I'll unmute Gaurav, then I'll unmute Darshita after that. Hold on, I'm just going in the order of what I'm seeing first. So don't think I'm... Next, Gaurav, I'm unmuting you. Next, I have Darshita. After Darshita, I'll go to Anu. Okay. Go ahead, Gaurav.
So question number 3,
Okay.
the 3 brothers in which one is minor.
Hmm.
We gave the reason that minor cannot be a partner. That is one. Can we also give a reason that the share of profits cannot be only for one person?
No. So they said the provision that Z will share profits. Yeah, you can give that also. Correct. That is also a point. Profits has to be shared. Here only one person is taking the profit. It is not allowed. Profits have to be shared between 2 parties. It can be in the ratio 99% is to 1%. That is fine. But if one person is taking the entire profits, it's not partnership. Good. That is also correct. Next, I'll unmute Darshita. Then I'll go to Anu. 1 second. Yes, Darshita, I've unmuted you. You can ask your doubt.
Yes, sir. So the doubt which I have is in question 3. So
Okay.
question 3, X and Y, they both can form a partnership. Like they are majors. That's why.
Correct. They can form a partnership, but Z cannot be a initial partner. He can be added as a partner later. Once
For
the partner
profits
is
only,
formed.
right?
I didn't get you.
So he can be a partner for profits only, Z.
Yeah.
Since he's minor.
See, not at the time of formation. See, that is only important to hear. The point is, Z can obviously be partner as a minor, but not at the time of formation. Let's say X and Y have formed the partnership. Sorry, let's say X and Y have formed the partnership in 2019 in July. In August, he can join as a partner. Next month itself, next day itself, he can join. But not at the time of formation, he cannot be a partner.
Okay.
He can only be admitted as a minor. He can only be admitted as a beneficial partner later.
Okay, so I also have a doubt in question 9. So you said that particular partnership, Amir Khan cannot sue. Sorry, Karan Johar
cannot sue.
Karan Johar cannot sue Amir Khan since it is a particular partnership. So wouldn't it have been a particular partnership at will? So sir, he can sue.
If it's partnership at will, and if they have agreed, see, now what is partnership at will? Concept of partnership at will is they will continue the partnership for indefinite period, correct?
Yes.
So if they have already entered for a partnership at will, then he can sue. Then Amir Khan has to give reason why he is coming out of the partnership, and he has to pay some damages or some claim to Karan Johar. Since in this question it's particular partnership for a specific project, only for one project, he cannot sue because the project has come to an end. Only if both the parties give consent, they can continue the partnership in case of particular partnership.
Okay. And so can you please explain the concept of co-owner, which is for question 7?
Yeah, see, co-owner, it's very simple. Question 7, yeah. Co-ownership says, question 7 is not co-owner. I think question 6 was co-owner. Okay.
Yeah, question 6, sorry.
Yeah, see, co-owner is very simple. Let's say husband and wife have a house in their name. They are co-owners for this house. So co-owners means they are joint owners. The concept of joint owners, joint bank account, that is the concept of co-owners. Now, co-owners, they have right in the property. They share the profits. One person can sell the partnership. Co-owners is very similar to partnership, but it is not equal to partnership.
Okay.
If you see, they were given difference in textbook also. There will be a small difference question, 3 to 4 points. Co-ownership and partnership, which says, I think it's in page 3.8 or 3.9.
Yeah, 3.9.
Yeah, the most important concept in co-ownership is one party is not the agent of other party. Now, let's say there's husband and wife. Okay. Now, if wife wants to sell the house, can she sell it without husband's consent? No. Both should sign, correct? Because they are co-owners, both the parties should sign. But in case of a partnership, one partner is the agent of another partner. If let's say a partnership wants to sell the fixed assets of partnership, one partner, if he signs, it's more than enough because he's acting on behalf of the partnership firm and other partners. That is an important thing. Co-owner is not the agent of the other partners.
So can we write that the consent of both the co-owners or all the co-owners is required?
Yes, it is required. Yes.
Okay. And so can you please give me the answer for question number 7?
Question number 7. No, it is not a partnership because concept of mutual agency is missing.
Okay, sir. So thank you so much. My doubts are over.
Sure. Next, I'll unmute. I think Anu and Soumya are left. Anu, yeah, I'm unmuting Anu. Anu, are you there in the class? No, I think Anu is not responding. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, sir.
Your doubt, Anu?
Can you explain the difference between nominal partner and partner by holding out?
Nominal partner and?
Partner by holding out.
See, partner by holding out means partner by estoppel. Meaning he is not a partner, but he is acting to be a partner. He is pretending to be a partner even though he is not a partner. That is only you call a partner by holding out. I explained in the video also estoppel. I think I explained. Let's say A, B and C are partners in a partnership firm. D, a friend, is coming and acting to be a partner over here. Others are also accepting his service to be a partner. He becomes partner by holding out, partner by estoppel. Partner by nominal partner is a person who is lending his name to the partner. Now let's say MS Dhoni, he is lending his name to Dream 11, saying you can use my name as a partner. I am lending my name, even though he has not invested money, he is lending his name. Then he becomes a nominal partner. Understood, Anu? Or no? Sorry, your voice is breaking, Anu.
Will both the parties liable to third party? Will both these parties?
Yes, they will be liable. Yes, they will be liable. Yes.
Yes, sir. In the video, you have said that partner by holding out will be seen in the next video or something, sir.
And I didn't mention, is it? Okay, fine. So partner by holding out will also be liable to third party. Yes.
Yes, sir. Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Sorry. I think I missed it in the recording. Sorry. Next, Soumya, last note. Yes, Soumya, I unmuted you.
Hello, sir.
Yes, Soumya.
Sir, in question number 3, if Z also 18 years old, they can form,
Z also 18
but
years?
not, but he is not complete 18 years.
No. You have to
18 years
complete
is
it.
going on.
No. See, first you should learn the rule of age. If somebody is asking what is your age, there are two things. One is 18 running, one is 18 completed. The ideal thing
Okay,
is
sir.
you have to mention what age is completed. Running age now is not relevant. What age is completed? Only after completing 18 years you will be called minor. Now you don't have license, sir. If you want to go get license, can you go tell the RTO, my 18 running, I have 3 more days for 18 completing. Can you give me license? Will they give you? No,
No,
right?
sir.
You have to complete 18. So you have to complete 18.
Okay, sir.
And also
Sir,
in
in
this,
question,
yeah, go ahead.
sir, in question number 6,
Okay,
hotel is not a business. Hotel is not a business?
it is a business.
Then why we are telling that is not partnership?
Concept of mutual agency. Here, see here, X and Y jointly own a house, converted the house into a hotel, and after investing 1 lakh each, X
Okay,
manages
sir.
the hotel and meets all the expenses and retains half the gross earnings.
Okay,
Okay.
sir.
And hands over the other half to Y. So there is agreement is there. There is also sharing of profits.
Sharing of profits.
But here they are not mentioning whether X can act on behalf of Y or if Y can act on behalf of Y. If there's another statement which says, which is giving you clue that there is concept of mutual agency, then it will be concept of partnership.
Okay, sir.
Have you understood? I don't
Yes,
think you
sir.
understood. Concept of mutual agency means one party can act on behalf of the other party. Meaning, let's say instead of X, Y can take a decision, or instead of Y, X can take a decision. That is the concept of mutual agency. Here,
Okay, sir.
it is based on the question we are seeing only X can take decisions and he's only giving money to Y. So Y is not having power to take decisions. Therefore, it is not a partnership.
Okay, sir. Sir, in question number 8,
Yeah.
if it is partnership at will, he will sue, you told, sir.
Yeah.
But if both the partners are agreed to stop the
Then they
partnership, means
no need to continue. See, if it is partnership
okay.
at will, if both the parties have agreed not to continue the partnership, then partnership will come to an end. But in
Okay, sir.
particular partnership, the conclusion for this question is particular project partnership is a partnership which is there for a particular project. Here the project is to shoot one movie. Movie has come to an end, so partnership has come to an end. If they want to continue the partnership after this, then they have to, if they want to continue the partnership, then they have to, both the parties have to give consent. For particular partnership, only one party is giving consent, therefore no.
Okay, so if there are two parties, but one want to continue the business, another one not to continue the business,
Then it will
in
come to an end.
partnership approval, what
Yes.
will be come to an end? Okay, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. That's it, guys. We're done with the class. I'll close the class.